Welcome to Midnight Mayhem. I'm your host, Leo, and I have my two friends over here.
Bobby.
And Raymond.
And we're basically going to be talking about just horror in general. We're just a bunch of friends. We watch a lot of movies together. And
We watch movies, not so much together.
We're adults. We don't have time to see each other. This gives us a reason to see each other, actually. I don't know about you guys, but I literally have no one to talk to about horror. It's just one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this channel with you guys. Because I watch things. I'm like, dang, that was good. I wish I had someone to talk to about it, and I don't have anyone.
I mean, I'm just glad that you have a decent memory, because I'll watch something like 10 years later, but like, oh, have you ever seen like The Notebook? Or you're like, and you'll be like, oh yeah, like this happens, and I was like, yeah, like, oh god, like you remember. So that's always, a plus, because the same thing. I don't really watch movies as they come out. I kind of just like one day I'll be like, oh, I'll just turn on Netflix so I'm not left alone with my thoughts.
Yeah, we're poor.
Yeah.
I can't go to see the things in theaters sometimes.
well, the thing is that not a lot of people like horror. So
It's a bit niche, yeah.
I've been with people that they hate horror. So you kind of have to like ease your way into
So they're
it.
punks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. But like, not a lot of people. Like, some people actually like hate horror in general. Like, they just have a terrible time. For me, like the way I like to see it is that my favorite movies to go see in theaters are horror movies, because I like to feel something.
That's depressing.
No, but it's like a different kind of feeling.
Yeah, I want every once in a while I want to go watch a movie and be like afraid to walk to my car after.
Yeah, or not
you don't
only
get that every day.
Yeah. But the thing that sucks now, it's that the more horror movies that you see, the more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Cliche.
No. When you get used to it, synthesize? No.
Desensitized.
Desensitize, synthesize.
Synthesized. They're all together.
No, yeah. So the more horror movies you watch, the more desensitized you get to them. So that's the thing that sucks, because it's like you watch more horror movies and then you're like, it was a good movie, but it wasn't scary.
It's like a drug addict. You're just looking for that next high.
Well,
You're like,
my
which
God,
one's
yeah.
gonna be like the next big movie? You know?
Yeah.
were you guys allowed to watch horror movies as kids? That's probably one of my reasons why I actually started watching horror. I wasn't allowed to watch anything until I turned like 14. And then I went through a binge. I was like, why? Why couldn't I consume this media? ¿Por qué? And I watched, like, when sci-fi channels used to have just horror.
Snakes on a train.
Yeah, snakes
All
on a
those really
train.
bad ones.
Transmorphers.
It had, Grudge. So I would sit there. I would watch the whole marathon because,
Wait,
teenager.
Are you talking about like the actual good movies? Or are you talking about like the sci-fi original movies?
I'm talking about the actual good movies and the occasional bad sci-fi
We're not talking
movies.
about like lava tarantula.
Sometimes, I mean, what was it? Anaconda versus
two lava,
Python?
two tarantula.
But yeah, that's what got me. That's what initially made me start watching horror.
When were you able to start watching horror, Leo?
I watched horror when I was a kid. I mean, I was just curious about it. I hated it because I was a really
understand.
I was a scary not a scary kid, but like
He used to beat up people.
when I was a kid, I used to get scared easily. Like, I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid of like things I didn't understand. I was just like I was a really a good kid, I guess.
Impressionable. You were
Yeah, I
impressionable,
guess. So, but the thing is that I was curious in these movies. So if there was a scary movie on TV, doesn't matter what age I was, I would watch it. And yeah, like, my mom would get mad at me because, there were movies that I wasn't allowed to watch. I remember when I was a kid, my mom, I don't remember what movie it was. I was a kid, and it was like this movie, it was depicting a scene in hell, and there was like people, and, they were like ripping their guts out, and like my mom saw me watching that, and she got mad at me, and she turned the TV off, and then I was like, but why can't I watch that, and why was that happening on screen? I was just curious, and from that point on, I just started watching a bunch of horror movies.
Were you just like, this isn't like Teletubbies? Like, this,
It was like
how come? Like, why is it so different? Did you do the thing where you're like, oh, like I can't watch this, and you like cover your eyes and you do that little like peek?
No.
Or you just legit just sat in front of the TV and watched people like rip their guts out?
Yeah, I legit sat through that, like, because I was curious. I wanted to see all that. I was really curious, but yeah, I mean, like any other parent, like there were certain movies that I wasn't allowed to see, but for the most part, I was, If it didn't show too much, then yeah, I saw it.
That happened to me with anime though. I was like, I think I caught the clip of like a princess died in an anime, and I was like, oh my god, they killed the princess. This isn't for me.
This isn't Disney.
And then I got consumed with anime after that. It was right after, and I watched Fullmetal Alchemist, the first original version.
Yeah.
The anime, where they like basically the doctor leaves a village and leaves the whole village to die for lust, the 7 deadly sin. The homunculus.
I see, yeah.
The booba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my heart ached after, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was kind of like the first time I watched Sweeney Todd. I was like, oh my god.
Is it the first time you felt something sad happen on screen?
Yeah, and it was the first time I thought about it like weeks after. So I can understand that from that perspective.
Yeah.
What age did you start watching horror?
I feel like I've
random.
just always watched horror because I have like 5 older siblings. So it's like, oh, like, what do you guys want to rent? Or, like, let's watch a movie. And if someone was like, oh, I want to watch this movie where, like, this guy goes around, like, murdering campers. And we're like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing as a family. Like, I didn't, I was just whatever they would put on. I'm like, okay, like, this is what we're doing today. Like, I'm like 3 or 4, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'll put it on and then I'll go watch Scooby-Doo in the next room after.
Is there any additional reasons why you guys started watching horror outside of the ones we listed?
I mean, for me, it was curiosity. But, yeah, no, for me, it was just basically just curiosity. Like, why was I getting scared? I was like a curious kid growing up. I wanted to know why I was getting scared,
I mean,
Well,
I'm pretty
because-
sure just anyone who sees somebody ripping their guts out, like, oh, yeah. That's
I don't know.
there's your answer.
I feel like it also comes back to just human nature. Like we tend to lean towards stuff that's darker.
or stuff that we're not supposed to
It's
watch.
like fascinating,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a positive thing. I'm just saying it's a thing.
It's not a good attribute to have, but we all have it.
But I hope that some of the stuff that we're saying is relatable to some of you. I'm sure you guys have like older siblings, or being like the middle child. Some of you are probably the elders, and got into horror at some point.
Or like you just left in a room and your older sibling was like, "Here, watch this," and they lock you inside, and you're just...
And they come back and then doo
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, since we started watching horror kind of young, Bobby, what are 3 like iconic horror scenes that kind of has always stuck with you?
Oh, because I watched it as an adult, or basically as a teenager. Yeah, teenager.
Overall, like out of all the horror movies that you've seen, what are 3 like iconic scenes?
Well, first and foremost, my favorite horror movie to date is the remake of Evil Dead. For numerous reasons, the fact that it inspired me to watch all the originals because of the cameos and references.
Is that the first one you've seen?
That was the first Evil Dead I seen.
Oh my god!
And I loved it so much. I saw it with you guys in theaters. And
That's the first
that was,
time?
All jokes aside, that was the first movie we saw together.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I was like, oh my god, this was like an emotional roller coaster. It's just, whoa, next level.
I didn't know that was.
horror.
I know, but I didn't know that was the first Evil Dead. Because I remember before that movie came out, me and Raymond saw all the old ones. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know that was like your first
I
introduction.
adored it when I watched it with you guys. It's one of my favorite memories
That's
of seeing something in
crazy.
theaters. But I was really torn when I was thinking about like iconic scenes for this movie. One of them, the number one spot's going to be when Mia is officially a deadite and comes out with a shotgun to shoot her older brother. When it's all crazy, because that scene's amazing. I again love this movie, so I had watched all the special features. I saw how it was filmed,
Yeah.
and like everything in that scene is practically. Outside of the audio that they add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she walks up, and again, minor spoilers, it's not that big, but it's just in the movie, that's the turning point where things are slowly building up, but it's the moment where everything just doo-doo to the fan. Like, it's just, everything's going to go to crap now, and it's fantastic.
You know what? I will say this. It's 2023. It's at the 10-year mark. I think you could probably spoil it if you wanted to.
I'll be light with it. Basically, at this point in the movie...
Spoiler warning.
Yes. Mia is completely...
No, I want to be caught off guard. The real horror is listening to this podcast.
Oh, no. She comes out as a deadite, fully possessed at this point, and she brings up a shotgun and fires it.
Yeah.
And she hits her brother's shoulder, and the door breaks open, and the camera shot is the camera lit like as if the camera is the ghost moving into the house. and she's screaming. It zooms in on her, and as she's screaming, it goes, "One by one, you will all die tonight."
Oh
And then the door slams, and it's like she just emphasizes it with her own, like, "You are all going to die tonight."
Yeah.
And then she collapses. So fantastic. I love it because it's not only making a cameo to the first film with Sherry.
Yeah.
That was originally her dialogue, and then the way the zoom in was a reference to how the original was filmed on that bicycle. I'm not sure if it was filmed with a bike, but I know that they couldn't have gotten that effect without some kind of motion with the camera.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they fired an actual gun in that scene, it was a blank. But
Oh my
But
God.
they fired it, and then when the doors blow open, it's a giant fan that they just blew everything open.
Jesus.
So when you watch that scene, it's like, oh, and during every horror scene, you can hear a siren in the background. So they have a crank siren, like ones at the
Like the tornado warnings.
tornado warning.
Really?
So you hear as things rev up, it goes and it keeps going.
I never noticed
And
that.
so much work goes into that scene. I love it.
Then again, the last time I
get
saw
excited talking about it.
yeah, no, the last time I saw that version of The Evil Dead, the 2013 version,
Yeah.
it was probably like the year after. So 2014 was probably the last time I saw that movie.
It came out in 2013. So
Yeah. The last because I saw it twice. I saw it in theaters, and then I saw it again in 2014, like a year later. But I don't remember much from it. I remember liking it a lot, but I don't remember much.
Yeah.
I have a question because I don't think that was ever answered. Is that a sequel?
It is considered like an alternate
remake sequel.
Kind of. It's technically a sequel in some sense. It's the idea of that movie is that because the Necronomicon exists, everything is bound to happen again. History is bound to repeat itself. So the fact that they're saying that I think there was 5 people who went into the originally. So then the events are going to be forced to happen again at some point. Now, is it going to play out the same way? We don't know. It could be considered an alternate universe, or it can be considered the same universe, just later down the line.
Or how about this? Is The Evil Dead 2, the old one, is that a sequel? Or a
That's
remake?
It's called
That's-
Evil Dead 2. Yeah.
I know, but,
But the first one it restarts the first movie.
yeah, it pretty much
They reshoot some of the opening scenes.
They do it all within 15 minutes of the movie.
yeah.
So I feel like it's
I feel like
it's a movie and then it's a recap and then it's a sequel. So it's Evil Dead and then it's Army of Darkness 2 or Evil Dead 2, which is just a retelling of the first movie and then it continues the story.
I thought Army of Darkness was the third.
Yeah.
I mixed up the titles.
I think it can be interpreted several ways. It could just be like different universes or this event happening in other timelines because it's they had a comic at one point. So like, we know.
And
we all know
he
about
time
Marvel,
travels, so
Marvel
And
multiverses.
he got killed by Howard the Duck, so that's always
Yeah, so I think it can be
What?
interpreted as any.
You
Yeah,
don't know about that?
no.
yeah.
Yeah, he goes into the Marvel universe and he's like, "I'll save you guys," and then Howard the Duck bites his head off.
Oh my god.
But my close runner up to scenes from that movie because I couldn't choose one honestly.
You're like, let me just put a timestamp of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, that's the full movie.
Yeah, literally. I was just like, what moment gets me the most hyped? It's that scene and the opening scene where they're trying to convince, and again, minor spoilers, first 5 minutes of the movie. They try to convince the father that his daughter's possessed.
Yeah.
That got me revved up so
When they were
much.
when they were trying to burn her.
Yeah.
Because they're like, "Oh, you have to burn her." She's like, "Oh, why are you doing this to me?"
Yeah.
Why are you doing this, Daddy? It was like, oh god, and then she's like, what did she say?
Your soul will burn or something like that.
No, she says, I'll rip your soul out.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh, and then and then it sets the tone beautifully for like the chaos that is about to ensue, which is why I love the movie so much.
Yeah.
It perfectly sets the tone. You have the minor bit of setup that has to come in every movie, and then the moment Mia fires that gun, it's just everything. Hell just breaks loose.
We're gonna go watch the new one that's coming out this year.
I would love
Evil
to go watch
Dead
that.
Rise.
I didn't know there was
I
one.
didn't know there was a new one.
I didn't know either until
and apparently we have plans to go see it.
No,
we go.
no. I found out in November that they're making a new one because they released like a screenshot for like the BTS of it, and it was like
Talking about, like, Dynamite.
no.
That's literally what I thought of too.
No, like behind the
Like,
scenes.
aren't they fighting in the
No,
war?
no, no,
Like,
no,
what's
no.
going on?
No. Like a behind the scenes, like screenshot of the movie, and it was like a scene where like somebody's looking through like the peephole of a door, and you see a deadite on the other side, kind of like peeking back. And I was like, "What's this?" And then it's like, "Oh, first screenshot for Evil Dead Rise, the sequel to the Evil Dead." And I'm like, what? You know? And apparently, I'm not sure if what's his name is coming back.
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know if he's coming back, but they're saying that they're going back to the old roots.
Because if it's a sequel, and then again, spoiler, at the end of the Evil Dead 2013, he shows up. Which
he has
is
a
why
minor
no, he doesn't show
My man yells
up.
no,
No,
he shows up.
That's a cameo.
no, and
There's
no,
a car, and he shows his silhouette, and he does his line. That's what I was asking. I was like, oh, is it a sequel?
no, that never happened.
Yes, it did.
His silhouette appears, but he doesn't come out of a car.
No,
Not a
like
car.
a car shows up, right? Because I think she's like leaving, and then a car shows up, and then you see him, and he's like groovy.
No. Unfortunately, you remember that wrong.
Okay, well, I mean, I haven't seen it in 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah. See, I figured. I was like, that doesn't happen.
No, what happens is you see the silhouette of him at the end of the credits.
But it's
and
like a silhouette of his
Yeah,
face.
it's just like it's that. He turns towards the camera and goes groovy.
Yeah, it was.
That's how the movie ends.
Nah, yeah.
And then I was like, what is happening? You don't know everything about this franchise. And then I watched everything when I got home.
Yeah.
But
why did he say
mean,
groovy?
Yeah.
what is
the
going
meaning?
on? And then I was like, what was that voice?
Go to Urban Dictionary. Like, what does groovy mean? Like, what is hidden details? Because I mean, like, as cool as it would have been if it was like just a cameo, like it'd be a weird place to put it just at the end of a movie.
That's what
if it's not connected.
But
I don't know.
let's reel it back a little bit because I can talk about Evil Dead all night.
Right.
Any iconic scenes for you guys?
Well, you said 2 iconic scenes. Do you have another one?
I just count them as one.
That's
That was one movie.
Alright,
You guys
okay,
go. I could talk. Like I said, I could talk too much.
I wanted to go first, so I don't know why you asked him the question first, but I mean it's fine. You know, he didn't.
Oh God, he went rogue.
He didn't take my answer. Because one thing I always think about, and I don't know if this happens to you guys, or I don't think it happened to you since you didn't watch horror movies a lot as a kid, where you have that dream where you're like, oh, like it's kind of whatever, and then boom, zombie apocalypse, and you're just like
nightmares.
Yeah, like nightmares, like
Nightmare fuel.
and then it was just like nonstop zombies, and then you
Nightmare.
you wake up at like 3 a.m. You're like, I need water. I think one of the closest, so two of the closest things that I feel like reach that for me are the opening to Night of the Living Dead or Day of the Living Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, you mean?
Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, yeah. Because the opening,
the
opening for Night of the Living Dead is that that scene was like, they're gonna get you, Barbara.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's kind of whatever.
It's
And
classic though. It's iconic. As
yeah.
hell.
What was the other one that you said?
So it's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
So the remake Dawn of the Dead.
You said Night of the Living Dead.
No, that was I don't know title.
Okay. No, yeah, the one that you mean is
Dawn of the Dead, 2005. Dawn of the Dead. Okay.
That's the one.
Ready.
Yeah, that's
Got
the
it.
one.
So that one
Little girl.
with the little girl.
Little girl.
So when they wake up and it's like, oh, like hey honey, the neighbor's kid got into our house again. He's like, oh, I'll go grab my shotgun or whatever.
Yeah. Which okay, hold on. That makes my bad to interrupt you, but that makes me wonder, how often does that happen?
That's what I was
when a
thinking
little girl
too.
just walks into your neighbor's house.
Like, what's your last straw, right? And apparently it was this one because the guy,
I mean,
the dad's like, okay, like I'll get rid of her. Come on and get out of here.
how often
homeless.
does the kid sneak into their house?
And then, okay, I
I
don't know
thought
if
it was
that's
her daughter. I didn't realize.
I thought it was his daughter too, but
I haven't rewatched that movie in years. So
me
I don't
neither.
know.
But I'm going
it's
off
the
memory.
neighbor's kid.
I'm
No,
going
it's
off
the
memory.
neighbor's
the
kid.
neighbor's
Yeah,
kid, okay, I
because
believe
I remember
you.
thinking, I'm like,
And he's
wait,
like, oh, okay,
Fingers.
he's like, I'll get rid of her, and he like gets the spray balls, like, hey, homeless, get out of here. And then she bites him in the neck, right? And then it's like, oh shoot, like something's not right, because at first you're like,
after
oh.
she bites him, something's not
Yeah, like,
quite
wait a
right.
I think my husband's having an affair with the neighbor's kid.
But yeah, the opening chaos of that scene.
Yeah.
As it keeps going.
Because at first it's like you're watching, you're like, okay, like we're probably gonna introduce the characters.
Yeah.
You're gonna kind of get to know them, and then something's gonna happen later on in the movie, and it's gonna start the whole zombie outbreak. But no, just right off the bat, little girl zombie. She goes full like, I don't know, somebody who bites people.
Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping one of you guys would jump in with like, oh yeah, like what was that boxer's name?
I'm not that quick.
Mike
Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Yeah, she goes full Mike Tyson on the husband.
Okay, all right.
And then the girl's like, okay, let me run to the shower and then run away, and then everything's just like pure chaos, and that like perfectly embodies like those nightmares you would have as a kid, where it's like, oh, like
Just chaos.
chaos, zombie apocalypse.
Just chaos.
People were getting hit by cars.
You don't know where to go.
Yeah, it's like obviously I wouldn't go to a mall. But
Well, she didn't. She just kind of drove until she found them all, I think.
yeah, that's what happened.
I think it was wherever that was the close. first
But-
safe spot she found was why she stayed there.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I can think of, and I can't think of any particular details, is 28 weeks later.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
The beginning of 28
classic
weeks
Walk
later.
28
28
weeks
vibes,
later.
yeah.
Because, and I don't, same thing with it, going back to the dreams. When you're running from a zombie and your body just feels like super heavy, like you can't run.
It's just, I mean, everything about that scene, because it's like,
Everything about this.
because about back to
28 weeks later, right? That's
28
28 weeks
That's
later,
one
yeah.
where
Because back
he's
to
in
Dawn of the
he's in
Dead.
hospital.
No,
No,
that's 28
days
days.
later. 28 weeks later.
Is the one where it's the other one.
The, the opening of 28
They're all
weeks later
fantastic, though.
starts off as a family, just like in a house. You know, the movie starts off as that, and then you notice that there's like wooden planks in the windows, and eventually, like, oh, somebody's knocking in the door, and it's a kid, and then, but I think the daddy's like, no, don't open the door, you can't let him in. He's like, but it's a kid. He's like, they let him in. You know, they check that he's not bitten, and you know he's not bitten. You know. But
For a second, I thought you were talking about The Purge.
no.
No, I know. It just the way you set it up reminded me of that.
Oh, and then I don't remember it that well, but there was a scene where like this girl, she's like peeking into the window because there's like a crack right there, and like a zombie kind of like pops out.
Okay,
and,
first off, they're not zombies. They're the
Infected,
infected.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he pops out through the crack, manages somehow to grab her arm through the crack, bites it, and she turns like within seconds. And then she starts biting people in the house. Zombies start breaking in the house. That's when the dad runs up. Oh my god, that scene!
Yeah.
When, I forgot
Now
about
they're
that.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
When he runs up the
hits.
stairs and there's a zombie on the other side, like he runs to the room to get his wife. The wife is like protecting the kid, but when he gets to the room, there's a zombie on the other side of the room, and he's all like, you know, it's either fight the zombie or escape through the window. And then he just escapes through the window, and the wife just look like just kind of like the betrayal,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then as he's running through the field, like, you know,
That aerial shot where you see all the
As a child,
chasing him.
everything about that. It's like that aerial shot, and then you see like the camera just like on his face, and then in the background it's on focus, but you see all these silhouettes start coming into
Just
the
running
screen,
at him.
and I mean, you
strong
can't really,
recommend.
yeah, no, you can't really tell what
It's
it is,
really hard
but
to
you know
phrase,
exactly
yeah.
what it is.
Yes.
It's just a bunch of like blurred silhouettes, but you know exactly what they are, and they're coming over the hill, and it's like, oh, and then they have this shot of the zombie running, and it's like, it's kind of like those GoPro shots, like point of view shots where like the zombie's running, but the camera is not shaky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like stabilized with the zombie, you know, while everything else is shaky. So it's like, it's just really, it's like a point of the view of the zombie while he's running. It's like crazy.
What is it? Yeah. That's a good one. I agree with all of that across the board. Quick little side note: when we made that little Mike Tyson reference, I've been watching a lot of Mike Tyson clips of him just wailing on people. So I just imagine a little girl just boxing this grown man up. That's why I was laughing earlier. In case
maybe,
anybody was
maybe
wondering.
if they do like a scary movie
Parody
of it.
It just flashed into my mind. That's why I was kind of giggling to myself for a bit there.
So that's two. What's your third one?
I'll get back to you on that. Did you
if we
already do
come-
yours?
I mean, look, I didn't do mine, but at the top of my head, my main one, the main scary scene.
Wait, can I take a guess?
Sure, you probably already know.
Is
Oh,
it the ring?
I got one
It is
too.
the ring.
It's the ring. Okay.
It is the ring.
I got one too. Take a guess. The Thing.
No,
Oh, are you talking about
it's not the
2011?
thing.
Or are you talking?
No,
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 I'm talking about
no.
the-
the
Are
Technically,
you,
they're-
are you telling us to guess what yours is, or you're trying?
I'm trying to guess.
ours?
You guessed his. I wanted to guess his too.
No, it's not-
it
it's not
doesn't
the
work that way
thing.
because I already got it right.
Yeah, but I was thinking he had two other choices.
Well, here's the thing. I have a lot of
Here's
iconic
the thing.
scenes.
That's funny.
I have
like
I
that.
have a lot of iconic scenes for different reasons. Like the scene that scared me the most as a kid, it is The Ring, but it's that scene from The Ring where it's the ending. It's the ending of The Ring.
Yeah.
Where,
the
like-
best part.
Yeah. It's basically when you see her face, like all like, you know, dread,
That
dead,
split second,
decaying.
like that Pazuzu.
There's
like,
there's a lot of
Pazuzu.
scenes in that movie because I saw The Ring when it first came out. Well, I saw it in 2003 in, you know, rented in Blockbuster.
That's like 2 years after, right?
Yeah.
2001.
2002.
2002.
Yeah, so I you know, I was at a family gathering and, you know, a bunch of people rented it. I thought it was Lord of the Rings because they were saying like, "Oh, you
Like,
rented."
oh, the rings. You're
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the Lord of the Rings.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
like, "We
oh.
rented The Ring. Let's watch The Ring." And you know, I was a kid. I was like probably like 10, 11 at the time.
You're like,
Probably-
"Come on,
no,
Frodo,
not even
let's
that.
go."
No, not. I was like 9.
2002. Yeah, you were like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I was like 9 at that point, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, I want to see Lord of the
So
Rings."
old enough to know better.
I guess, but they
We
put
just,
it
we
in.
just had a whole conversation
Yeah.
about how he made bad choices as a kid.
And like,
watching movies.
yeah, and I was a very gullible kid, you know, and like, so when the movie starts playing, I was like, okay, this is kind of creepy, you know, but I'm like, maybe it's gonna transition to Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. I don't know how.
It's like the little girl's gonna come out of the well and she's gonna hand him a
It
ring.
was, yeah,
and they're
it
gonna be
wasn't
okay, we
until like
gotta
the
deliver
first,
this.
it wasn't until the very first 15 minutes where I'm like, okay, this is not Lord of the Rings. For some reason, in my head, I'm like, this has. I
It's
just
all
knew.
modern
It's gonna
day.
get
Yeah,
better.
I'm
It's
like,
gonna
what
get
other
better.
movies? What other movies have ring in the title? Like, it has to be Lord of the Rings, you know, because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But you know, after I found out that it wasn't Lord of the Rings, I kept watching it, and I'm like, okay, this is a horror movie, but I'm gonna keep watching it. And there's so many scenes in that movie. Like the first scene that just kind of scared me, that just left a pit in my stomach, was when they found the dead girl in the closet, and you see her face like all distorted.
That's because I'm kind of curious because like both scenes that you described. I mean, I guess except for the last one because that's kind of like a full scene.
Yeah,
But like when you see the girl in the closet's face, that was like a
split second.
and that doesn't even happen at the beginning. That's like maybe 20 minutes in.
I know, but it's like that split second because it catches you off guard. I've seen The Ring multiple times, and it's like, it's pretty much like a retelling. Like the mom is telling, I think her name's Karen.
No, what was it? Do you know the main
Not off the
character
top
from
of
the
my
Ring?
head, but I'll look it up in a second.
Okay.
Anyway, the mom is telling her the story of like how she found her daughter.
Yeah,
you
she was
know,
like, oh, it was
and like,
horrible.
yeah, it's like, no, it's horrible. I just went upstairs and she was just there, and then like they just like that just transitioned to her scene, and like it wasn't even for like a second, but it just shocks you, and then they have that scream because there's a scream in there too, and so it shocks you, and I was scared.
Quick tangent. Do you like if you go home after you were out in a night or whatever, and like you're like let's say you have a roommate or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you don't see them when you come home, or you're like I'm gonna check the closet.
No.
That's not right. Like
No.
they could be missing for like 4 or 5 days. Like I don't know. I haven't
not
seen
gonna
them.
There
check
wasn't a
the
scene
closet.
that did that to me, but the movie that did that to me was Strangers. I watched at 2 a.m. Like I watched in a perfect
yeah.
environment, Home Alone, 2 a.m. Oh my god.
Home Alone 2 a.m.
I was pretty messed up. I was like locking all the doors.
Strangers is a good movie. The sequel,
Home Invasion.
from what I've seen of it, not very good.
It's more of an homage to the 80s horror. It doesn't feel as serious. Oh, I mean, people are still dying. It feels serious, but it's also like this isn't a good movie. It's just kind of it has that
like,
classic
cheesy horror.
Yeah, exactly. But to each their own. Were we talking about Samora's mother, or were we talking about the?
We're talking about the main character.
Oh, that's Rachel. Rachel.
Remember
Remember the little boy's
yeah.
like Rachel.
Rachel. Yeah,
bring me
he's
some
like,
breakfast.
I know.
And I was like,
Rachel.
Mama, stop me.
Yeah.
I mean, because
What's
that
happening?
okay, that's not her son, right?
No, it's her nephew.
She's the aunt.
Yeah.
I might be a
Because
buffoon 'cause I
that's
never got
why
that.
that's why it's not that weird that he's like Rachel. Because like I don't call any of my aunts like hey aunts.
Any of my aunts. I call my tias.
Tia's different, but like
Tia aunt means the
he's a
same
little white kid, you know. Like he's
fair.
not gonna say that. And then it was 2002 was a different time.
thing.
No, but while watching it, I thought it was the same thing. I was like, why is he calling his mom Rachel? Like that's so weird.
Was I the only one who caught that?
Huh? No. I'm
No, I
pretty sure.
legit. I think you
Well,
are from the table. Yeah, I think you are,
no,
because I didn't catch
they
that.
do explain it in the movie early on that it's like, oh, his mom died when he was a kid, or maybe during childbirth or something. But I didn't catch that as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's the mom. Because
Like,
as a
'cause
kid,
at your point, you were still waiting for like Frodo to show up.
and as a kid, I had this belief that it's like there's an adult female and there's an adult female and then a little boy. That has to be the mom and the son, you know?
Can't be saying that in 2023, man. You're gonna get canceled.
No, I know, but it's
Oh,
like
God,
now-
it's
You can't just,
I
assume
learned-
their parental.
I learned to pay attention to the movie after that. So that's okay. Yeah, that's my. I think
might have just
my.
forgot.
I don't pay attention to the movies as well as I should. But for whatever reason, that one like stuck with me. I was like, oh yeah, like they're not like mother son. They're like they.
Yeah.
But I was also like paid enough attention where I was like, okay, like obviously he's not some like stray. Like they're somehow related.
No, I guess they're somewhat related. That's the scariest scene that I can remember. But like I said, there's a lot of scenes for different reasons. That's the scene that scared me the most. and for multiple months I couldn't like be in the rain. I couldn't watch VHS tapes. I couldn't stand cloudy days. I couldn't
Horrible 'cause
I
you
couldn't
watched
be
it in the
around
winter.
horses. Yeah, I couldn't be around horses. I couldn't be in boats. For some reason I was scared of lighthouses too, and like
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lighthouse in the movie, so it makes sense.
I know. But yeah, no, I was
But
terrified.
just that scene is what most memorable scene for you.
Yeah, because
most
at
iconic.
that scene I was like, I'm gonna die. Like I,
Yeah, it's like,
for some
he's
reason
like,
after that scene,
you
I
saw the movie and you're like, this is how I'm gonna die.
Yeah,
Like, I know it.
no,
Like,
I literally
tomorrow's
thought,
gonna
yeah,
I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad.
I literally thought after that
You
scene,
saw
I
to
was
the
like,
soul.
I literally got 7 days to live, and I was scared. I was really scared. But
You know
then,
what would have been great is if like your phone rang and your mom or dad answered like, oh, it's for you.
I was afraid of phones too. Like I was afraid of like answering a phone call and like having nobody. I had that multiple times when somebody calls like the house a phone and nobody answers, and then I was like, we're gonna die. Like this is it.
For our younger audience, we're old enough to remember having a landline
You remember landlines
and flip
Landlines.
phones, so they were all terrifying
no,
back
flip
then.
phone. There's flip phones now.
I mean, I'm talking about the.
No, I know.
You
I
know,
know.
you know what I'm talking
You're
about. The razor.
the clamshells, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like
And VHS.
I'm just
VHSs,
because
yeah.
isn't that what they in the? Oh, I don't want to break off
and
too much. Into it.
Betamax.
I don't want to break off too much into a tangent, but don't they pull one out of a flip phone? In that Rings special, the YouTube one. I could have sworn they pulled a fly out of a flip phone.
I think they were watching like a YouTube video,
Oh.
and then they were just like pulling flies out.
Yeah, but that that's to talk about
on,
the
on a later
second,
day. But I'm
yeah.
just saying, like, I could have sworn I saw a flip phone in that movie.
Yeah. They do pull a fly out of a flip phone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
maybe my memory is wrong. I need a refresher.
So it's
but-
either it was cursed or they need to clean their room because they have flies growing out of their phone.
You ever open your wallet and a moth fly out?
No, mine's normally starved to death before that.
And then maybe another scene. I guess the earliest scene that I can remember watching as a kid that I got scared was probably from the movie. I don't remember if it's The Haunting or A Haunting, but it's with Owen Wilson and man, what's that actor that played in Batman Begins, the villain?
Scarecrow?
No, the other one.
Batman Begins. The only villain Liam Neeson.
There you go. Okay,
Ra's
so
al
it
Ghul.
had Owen Wilson, Liam Neeson, I think Freddie Prinze Jr. maybe.
Freddy, nice.
Okay, but it's a movie that came out in 1999.
Yes, 1999. I found it right here.
Okay,
The Haunting, 1999.
yeah,
I
it's
don't know anything about.
so
this
it's a
I've
movie.
never
It's a
heard of
movie.
it.
It's a movie about like I think that this group of people goes into this haunted mansion to just investigate it.
Never mind. I stand corrected. I remember this one.
Yeah,
Let me
Yeah.
see the picture. Maybe I might.
It's the one where the headboard comes alive.
yeah.
Yeah, as a child, I
and
saw
it
that scene.
that movie has a lot of CGI, like a lot of CGI.
Yeah, okay.
But one of the scenes that traumatized me as a kid was when I think it was Owen Wilson. He was like in the garden, and there was a water fountain there. Not like a water fountain, just like a regular fountain, like in
Yeah,
the
like a
garden.
fountain.
It's coming back to me.
Yeah, and then he starts hearing voices, and like the water fountain turns to blood, and like he just like freaks out, runs out. There's another scene.
He was like, I gotta get out of here. Ka-chow. He just starts running.
Lightning
There's
McQueen.
another scene where I forgot the actress's name, but she's the same actress that plays the mom in The Conjuring. I don't
Got
know.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
So
that one I don't know the name of.
okay. Well.
She is beautiful though.
Oh yeah. She still looks pretty good to this day. Yeah.
I'm just making a side note.
But
Continue.
she's like sleeping, and then you start hearing like little kids' voices, and then you start seeing little kids' footprints like on the bed, and you start seeing their silhouettes or like their, I guess like cover or of their silhouettes of their bodies like on the curtains, like I almost said that they were behind the curtains and stuff, and that scared me like crazy as a kid.
I thought of one more. So if you're done with your thought, I'll go ahead and go into mine.
And then after that, I'll finish my reasons why I watch horror.
I mean, I guess the next one that I can think of is probably. Let me see.
Also, if you're still listening, thanks for stay in tune. I appreciate
Or
that.
thank you for skipping ahead to this exact moment, depending on how you're watching this.
Like, I don't want to hear that spoiler about the ring or about the haunting.
Yeah,
from
and you just
1999.
skip like 30 minutes ahead.
Thank you,
and you're
thank
like,
you for
"Oh,
listening
thanks
to this
for still
while
listening to us."
ironing and stuff.
Yeah, thanks for leaving us on the background roll. Yeah, YouTube auto plays.
I am casting that thank you into the world. All right, no, that's your third scene.
Man, third scene.
I don't see the Mothman
Probably.
scene. Keep going.
Yeah, third scene.
If not, I can
If
go.
you have a little bit of time, I have one as well.
Give me yours.
Have you guys ever seen the movie? I think it was called The Others.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reason why this scene sticks out to me is because I went to a friend of my mom's house, and they were like, "Hey, we just got this surround sound speaker system." I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Oh,
know,
wow.
Yeah,
I can imagine how scary that would have been.
yeah. Well, like, I mean, it would have been worse if they didn't say like, "Oh, this is what we got." If they were like, "Oh yeah, we're just watching this movie,"
How well did it play?
really well. So, it was the scene where
Trauma.
they're in that room, like a completely white room,
Yeah.
and everything's covered in sheets. And with the surround sound, because what happens in the scene is you hear whispering.
Yeah.
With the surround sound, it's all around the house. It's like, and then it's
Oh, wow.
it gets that audio and it like enhances it.
The way it's meant to be
So
viewed.
you can hear them whispering like basically like right behind your neck.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then like I think honestly, if I didn't go to their house and they didn't have that set up, I wouldn't remember that movie at all today. Not
So
that
what's
it
the
was
scene
bad.
though? What's the scene that got you though?
Just that.
Just the experience
the
of it.
experience of it.
Experience of it. Okay.
Yeah, and then I mean the twist of the movie also, which I'm not going to go into, but I don't know if you know what it is.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
So that
And
one,
I used to have a, when I was a wee boy, I was like, Nicole Kidman, beautiful. She still is, but I'm just saying, more emphasis when I was that age.
back when you had internet and zero supervision. Yeah.
I didn't have internet, so that's why movie stars were like, oh. Literally the scene in the 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing. I said that earlier.
Uh-huh.
The first time you experience, where he goes, I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. When they get ready to do the
the
defibrillator.
Yeah.
And his
okay.
stomach opens up. It's again the moment where we're like maybe midway through the movie or like almost midway through, and we finally experience the full brunt of what we're going to be experiencing for the rest of this. That's also why I loved From Dusk Till Dawn, because it has that same nothing happens. It's all set up, but beautifully masked as almost an action or a drama, and then it just immediately jumps into this is what's happening.
Yeah,
This
like
is
the horror territory.
and that's what I enjoy so much about horror, because it just takes a turn and it changes your experience, your viewing experience entirely.
Which
So-
I almost wish more movies did that, where it kind of disguises itself as like a different genre. Where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna watch a rootin' tootin' cowboy movie, and then suddenly like just people start dropping.
But just a quick little tangent too is if you think about like the classic horrors to date, like their first time experiencing thing, like for example, first found footage was Blair Witch Project, 1999. Scared the crap out of the world. I remember being 5 at that age, and I was like, whoa, everyone's so scared by this movie. Jaws, when Jaws came out, scared people away from the ocean.
Yeah, I was afraid. I saw that movie when I was a kid. I was afraid. The only thing that I can remember, because when I saw it as a kid, it's not like I watched the whole thing. I just was turning the channels, and I turned to the part where the shark bit one of the guys, and like as he chewed him, like blood came out of his mouth. It's towards the end. And I'm like, oh my god, this is terrifying. I thought it was a real shark.
Yeah. And then what was it? What's another movie that is Freddy Krueger? The fact that you can you can watch the movie about nightmares, have a nightmare, and then just like
Yeah.
it's so iconic. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like basically the first slasher outside of maybe did
Halloween.
Black Christmas come out first or Halloween?
I think Halloween was the first one.
I'll double check.
Because
I think it
Halloween-
might be Black Christmas.
I think Black Christmas is like 74. I think.
74?
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier.
Well, Halloween came out before 74, I think.
I haven't looked at Halloween in a long time. I know they're both from the 70s though.
Yeah, they're both in the 70s. I think Halloween is 71.
Well, even in Michael Myers, like the Halloween franchise, just even the first movie was like first of its kind at the time.
Yeah,
Like, oh
yeah.
my god! But I'm saying all of these are introductions. That's why it's so hard to follow up with horror. And my final scene on my list would be Aliens. Of course, the original Ridley Scott, 1970. Oh, and I'm sorry, yeah, 1979. That chest burster scene, that first iconic scene. But I mean, I was rewatching it as an adult. I wanted to watch Prometheus. I was like, well,
Yeah,
what was that, 2018?
Let me
revisit. And I was like, God, this was so good. Like, I was like, that probably that's a puppet, right? Like, that looks like straight up a real thing. Like, it exists in the world right now.
Yeah.
And then
like you can feasibly find that somewhere.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I believe this might be just a rumor. I would have to look into the special features. I'm pretty sure that they didn't tell any of the actors that was going to happen.
No, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't.
So like the reaction, the pure terror on their face is so genuine that I was like, man, this is
how much would it's because you know how because there are certain things where they film things and they don't tell the actors so they can get a genuine reaction.
Yeah, the remake
that happens a lot.
For example, like E.T., they didn't tell Drew Barrymore that was a puppet. Like
I was just watching that recently.
She thought it was an actual alien the whole time. So when she's crying at the end, it's because she thinks he's actually dying.
Yeah.
But imagine how horrible it would have been if the chest burster scene came out,
okay.
A genuine reaction, and somebody sneezes, and it's like, oh well, it's ruined. Like you can't recapture that moment.
Yeah, that's why filmmaking's so complicated.
Yeah, that happened in the movie It. I think it was during the scene where
like the
remake
movie It or the TV series.
No, the movie. The movie.
Okay.
So the very first movie, It, 2017. I think it was a scene where the kids are watching the slides go through the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I know exactly what scene you're talking about.
They shot that scene first, and they didn't show the kids like how the clown looked like.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård. They because I remember they were like, oh, we're just gonna he's just gonna show up on set one day.
Yeah. They did show the smaller kid how he looked like before, just because they didn't want to traumatize him. What was his name again? Billy. Yeah. So they kind of like had an interaction beforehand before shooting their scene.
Oh no, Georgie.
Oh shit! Why did we say Billy?
I was sitting here like, what?
Billy's the brother.
Oh, okay.
Because I was thinking like
oh, like
what like
yeah.
Because you were like, oh they like met each other before the scene, and I was thinking like, oh, how would he introduce himself? Like, hi, Georgie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, his name's Georgie.
No, it's actually it's on YouTube. It's pretty funny. It's like a whatever interaction, like, "Hey, little buddy, how's it going?" You know,
it's
but
super
it's him,
cute to see their
him.
reaction.
And it's like, "Wow, you're pretty tall," you know, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, buddy?" He's like him in full on
Bill Skarsgård. Yeah, I like the fact that he made sure to take care of.
It's so funny, yeah. So
scary, like,
and so like
young.
they met before they shot the basement scene where he's like, "You'll float too. You'll float too." Yeah, I think they shot that scene first for his character. And then for the other kids, I think the scene that they shot first was the
slideshow.
The slideshow, and in that scene, they haven't seen how the clown looked like. So it's like their reaction was like their first time seeing the clown.
But yeah, today is more of a hoping you guys get to know us a little bit better, kind of get a feel for what we individually like, because we all have pretty different taste. Like I go for story and practical effects, and I love special features, obviously.
I was gonna say, because I don't know if we skipped this earlier, if we were planning on ending the episode with this, but why do you watch horror?
Why do I watch horror?
Why do you watch horror? Yeah.
That's it goes into the reasons why I like horror. All right, so I'm just gonna break it down really quick. I used to say this as a teenager, and now as a young man, I can kind of somewhat say it a little bit better. One, you will always get a story that you'll never expect. So one of my main rules about watching movies to date is I never watch trailers. I don't know anything about the movie. I always go in blind. I'm the guy who's in the theater before the movie and the trailer start, and I'll run out the theater just so I don't see spoilers.
No, it's true. Yeah, I've seen it. No, I've seen it. No, I've seen you cover your eyes during movies, during trailers
at least
and stuff.
You run out of the theater instead of like covering your eyes and going like la la la.
No. But it's during movies that you actually want to see. I've only seen you do it a couple times.
Yeah, where I actually sit through trailers. I can't.
Like if it's like, oh, like here's a trailer for Dunkirk, like, oh, I'll be right back, and then it's like, oh, here's a trailer for like Barbie. You're like, I'm fine with sitting through this.
All right, 2, because I was a teenager, and I told you I was interested because I wasn't allowed to watch it, so I kind of felt the need to watch it as I was turning of age to watch that stuff. Okay.
And then let's be honest, like nobody's watching like Piranha 3DD like for the story.
Fun fact: the first movie that snuck into theaters was actually the Friday the 13th remake, 2009.
Are you talking about when he stabs her from underneath the?
Yeah. It's that one. Yeah, it's that one. I felt. Nice. I know, but I felt really uncomfortable being in the theater. I thought that I was like, at any moment, I'm gonna get in trouble watching these, because I think I was like 13, 14 when that movie came out, but like I snuck into it and I was like, oh my god! And the whole movie was just pure nudity, the whole movie. And so I'm like, at any moment, like there's some guard that's gonna come out during the
With a
worst
gun.
possible scene. Yeah, no, and I was like, I'm gonna get in so
I'm
much trouble.
gonna get shot for watching a movie that I'm not supposed to be in. Now,
now that I have an opportunity to say it, have you guys seen Invisible Man? The
Yes.
officer?
Yeah.
Kevin
Did you see his traps?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, my man,
He's
you
built, man.
do dips all day, every day. You
He builds. He builds.
I will get his name later, but I was like, my goodness, props to you, applaud. So, all right, those are the two reasons, and the final reason being, I really enjoyed learning behind the scenes practical effects.
All right, we're back. We have some technical difficulties.
you don't have to edit that in.
I had to pee.
So go on with what you were saying.
What was the last thing I said?
I don't know. You can play
Man
back the
butt.
recording.
I could
Man
have.
butt. We were talking about
talking
Man
about
butt,
man butt.
and then
strong,
I
firm men.
I said I enjoy the practical effects, so behind the scenes features.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say because I don't know.
I love them so much.
I feel like horror has some of the best practical effects because it's like it's taking something that you will not see in real life and making it real.
and that's the main reason. It's not only just the practical effects, but it's the fact that a horror movie has to. It's going to show you something you haven't seen previously. Like I remember because I was going through that phase where I was just watching every horror I could. I was like, these are not all good, obviously. So I watched The Hatchet. Not a good slasher.
The Hatchet. Yeah,
Not
I
a good
remember
slasher
that.
at all.
What about Axum?
I don't think I've seen that. But the reason why I remember The Hatchet is because I remember he freaking throws his hatchet on the ground, face up, and then throws someone's face into it. And I was like, my goodness, that was creative. Way to
Yeah.
keep my attention. Good job, movie. And
Yeah.
so
like I said, specifically with horror, with the practical effects, it's like you're not going to see that in real life. Like for example, there are practical effects in other movies, but it's like you could probably see that in real. Like you're not going to watch a Lifetime movie and see them use a practical effect and be like, oh, like I would have never seen that because they're trying to keep everything grounded in reality. But with like horror, you can see somebody's head getting smashed with two logs.
The best
You're
practical
not going to see that
effects.
unless you are a little unhinged.
I'm agreeing with you completely, but
Because the thing with horror movies, like they're known, most of them, or at least the good ones, you know, they're known for having like the best practical effects. Because for me, when movies, well, all movies use CGI, you know, they're gonna have to use CGI at one point. But I don't like when CGI is used in horror movies. At least not a lot.
It does break the immersion.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could do like a whole separate episode on like what do you, because I feel like practical effects are they're too costly.
I could break into a whole conversation about
they're,
that.
But they're too costly. Like
separate video.
You don't know how many like Chucky dolls there are out there in the world just because of how many like animatronics you had to make. But it's it's just so much cheaper to use CGI. But like, do you think it will ever, like, we could talk about another episode, but like, do you think it'll ever, CGI will get to the point where you're like, oh, I know that's like not real?
Depends. I feel like CGI.
Well,
I
that's
feel
not
like,
an answer.
but I feel like I know, but no, it really depends because it depends on how much effort, money, and and time gets put into it. Because we're there right now to the point where you can't notice what's CGI or not if it's done correctly.
Yeah.
But then there's other movies like, have you seen the new Jeepers Creepers? There's a new Jeepers Creepers movie that came out.
I've seen a scene, and I'm not going to talk about it because it makes me feel bad. But
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
the scene is really bad.
It's awful.
And I hear the whole movie's like that.
It's like that. It's like a student film. It's so bad. And it's like there's other horror movies that I've seen use CGI that, like the Hellraiser movies. Like I'm pretty sure that uses CGI, but
to a degree, they did a fantastic job masking it. I know we were arguing about that. We were like, "Oh, this part was CG."
Yeah,
that doesn't look CG.
Look,
to me.
You remember when you were like, "Yeah, we're gonna look it up and we'll let you know." And then
but we haven't done that
yet. It's been like a month and nobody's told me.
We haven't made that episode. I'm excused.
It's
I'm
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
That's fine.
But no, and then back to the original conversation. Back to the whole first story that you're gonna get something that you would never see somewhere else. With horror, after you watch so much, yes, you get a little bit desensitized to it because it's just the same old stuff. It becomes a cliche after a point. It's either everyone's going to die and everyone's going to be disappointed that everybody died, or one person's going to survive and be like, oh, of course, one person, the final girl, had to survive. There's cliches to horror. The thing is that when you go into a movie, you know that there's going to be a cliche to it, but the fact that the movie's still memorable because of how well it was made, how scary it was, that's what makes a good horror movie like phenomenal, fantastic. That's why Hereditary blew me out of the water. I was like, oh, it's gonna be. Everyone was comparing it to The Exorcist. I was like, oh, it's gonna be another possession movie. No, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was daylight, and we were like, okay, take a breather. Went to go pick up my brother. I thought it was my nephew. It was my brother.
Yeah.
Came back, and I was like, all right, let's finish the movie. Finished the movie, and then we kept thinking about it for like days.
You're picking up your brother. You're driving back, and he's like, "Oh, can I have some of these peanuts?" You're like, "No." It subverts expectations, is what like, right? Like horror movies subvert expectations, and that's what make them.
It's that, but also the ability to still tell a good story while being a cliche. Like that's
not always. I feel like
that's why there's not a lot of good ones.
As much as I love horror, it's slim pickings.
Yeah. Like, if you've seen One Wrong Turn, you've seen them all. If you've seen certain movies, you've seen them.
Like, Wrong Turn, like, I'll get to that in a bit, but I kind of want to go over Leo's examples, then I'll finish up with mine.
So that concludes
examples.
me.
Oh, like the third.
No, why do you like horror? Like,
finish off that reasoning.
Because it's a genre that makes you feel a feeling that no other genre can feel. Like, you can watch action movies, like, oh, that's a cool movie. You can watch a comedy and it makes you laugh, you know. But with horror, it lingers with you, and it may, so, you know, in best case scenario, it gives you like a pit in your stomach as you're watching it. So for me, like, it makes you feel something that you don't feel with any other movies. And I mean, I like that feeling. I mean, the last time I had that feeling in a movie theater, at least, when I saw Hereditary in theaters.
Oh yeah, that seems like it would have been amazing.
But the thing is that I saw it. No, and the thing is that was one of the movies that I saw in theaters. I haven't seen the trailers. I knew it was by A24.
A24.
Yeah, it was by A24, so I'm like, okay, it has to be somewhat decent.
Yeah,
you know?
I think at that point, A24 was either like, oh, this is going to be one of the best horror movies you've seen.
Yeah.
Or it's going to bomb.
So, yeah, and I had a friend that's like, oh, I heard like this movie is supposedly like the best horror movie that's out.
And we're not trying to overhype it, but it is a good movie. Like,
yeah.
There's no denying that.
And I'm like, there's no.
I'll go as far as say, like, I haven't seen the movie. I know of it.
So I'm afraid of overhyping it for your experience.
Yeah.
Like, just go watch it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, when I went to go watch it, I'm like, there's no way this movie has to be that scary. And I mean, for me, yeah, there's a lot of scenes that are creepy. It didn't scare me. However, there's a lot of things in the movie that just kind of make me uncomfortable. Like, for example, like, I mean, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the reaction, the mom's reaction to the accident, and the way she reacts to it, like that, it was so hard to watch, dude.
Toni Collette, right? Her performance was fantastic.
Dude, yeah, I
was like, oh my god.
It's honestly like, I don't know how she didn't at least get nominated for like an Oscar, like best actress, at least.
There was a few scenes I wanted to list in as like honorable mentions from that, because there was a lot of moments where I was like, it's not technically horror. It's not horror that's happening. It's just so emotional that I'm like, oh my goodness, that felt like a real fight with my mom. Like,
and there's a lot of
like,
scenes
which is
where
scary in its own right.
Yeah, but it's like, oh man,
there's a lot of scenes in that movie where it's like there's
real.
Yeah, it's real. You like there's fights between like the son and the mom, the dad and the mom. You know, like the mom and the daughter. Like, there's a lot of fights like that, but like, they go at it as a, like, you're like, oh my god, you're feeling the, like, that's the thing that made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I think that goes back to what I was saying about horror subverting expectations. Yeah, because you're going into this thinking you're gonna watch like, oh, it's a horror movie, it's gonna be about like ghosts or like demons or whatever, and then I mean, it's like it is, but at the end of the day, it's like it's also like a family drama. Yeah, that just happens to have supernatural elements in it.
I feel like that movie was scary for me mainly because it wasn't like scary for me, like, oh, like, it's not scary to watch, but it was scary to see like their reactions to like losing people around them.
The other thing I would feel like it's worth mentioning is the cinematography does a lot. Those panning shots, they add so much to it.
No, we can talk about that in a later
I'm saying,
day.
As far as like your interpretation of the film, like it adds so much to it. Because another movie that subverted expectations was The Invisible Man. I didn't want to watch it because I was like,
"Are you talking about the remake, or are you talking about?"
I'm talking about the remake. The remake I didn't want to watch because I was like, it's so odd. The movie's literally called Invisible Man. How suspenseful can this movie possibly be?
It sounds goofy.
It sounds goofy as heck, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. I watched it at home when it went on HBO Max, and I was like, oh, Yeah,
and it's
I
it wasn't,
felt, I
and it
felt
wasn't
ashamed of my
scary.
previous opinion.
It wasn't scary.
But the suspense was
the tension
the
and
anxiety.
suspense.
I think it's more scary if you've gone through like a situation. Like imagine like
Yeah.
that's like something that would be like PTSD. You know?
Yeah. But I think the cinematography, those quiet moments, those subtle moments where she's just walking through, like it's just it's just one shot. And
Yeah.
you're just like, please don't hit anything, please don't make a noise.
Yeah.
Dog barks. You're like, ah!
Yeah.
like you're at the edge of your seat the entire time. You feel the pressure, and then I was like, man, I
And
was
it's-
not expecting this
yeah.
movie to be that good, and I loved it, and I think it's phenomenal, and I want to watch it again. I could watch it right now.
And it's just a good movie in general. Like the scene. I mean,
But I'm saying to take that concept that you know that
Yeah.
the movie's about an invisible man, and you will go in and still enjoy the heck out
the
of it. That's-
scene. My favorite scene in that whole movie is the restaurant scene.
Yeah. Oh God.
Like it catches you off guard,
tears.
and it's like, and then it blames her.
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like,
Spoiler,
oh my
minor spoiler.
god.
Yeah.
It's
But,
like, oh my god.
So then it's Raymond. What do you?
So mine's a super simple, which is why I was like, oh, I'll go last. Sometimes you just want to watch bad things happen to bad people,
Yeah.
right? Like, because I would say I prefer like slashers over most other genres of movies. Because if it's like, oh, it's a ghost or like a demon, they're not normally bad people, and it just sucks to watch bad things happen to them.
Yeah.
But if you're watching like a bunch of college people are like, oh yeah, like remember that time we hit that hitchhiker, and then the hitchhiker comes back and murders everybody, it's like, you know what, they got what they deserved.
But yeah, that's besides the point.
As a closing thought, what do you want to recommend newcomers? Somebody that doesn't like horror but they want to get into it.
I would want to start them off light, so I'm trying to think of something.
Give them like one or two movies.
If you like musical, Sweeney Todd. That
Which
one
I
is-
mean, arguably, like it's
gothic
it's horror or it's a musical, like depending on how you want to view it.
Yeah, but that one is. I mean, if you don't care for Johnny Depp, then I don't recommend. But if you don't mind, that movie is really good. Let's see. Do you guys have any? I'll think of some off.
I have
Good
a
ones.
super short attention span, so I would probably recommend something like Trick or Treat,
Oh,
2007,
yeah, the
or
anthology.
VHS,
Yeah,
because they're all just
Both
small
anthologies.
anthology. Like they're basically just short films, right? And they're good. They're well made. It's not like ABCs of Death where it's like you just watch something super
God.
random for like a minute 20. It's like they're good. They're good shorts. What about you, Leo?
I mean, I was thinking like Beetlejuice. I mean, it's not really horror, but it's like,
it is horror.
do you think so?
I consider horror comedy.
It's like, yeah. I mean, it's or maybe even the Monster Squad. Because I remember I really
Monster
enjoyed that
Squad?
one. Yeah, you ever seen that one?
No.
I think it was Monster Squad.
Isn't that the bad guys from Space Jam?
no.
The
Monstars.
Mon Squad.
Let me, no,
Monstars.
hold on.
Yeah.
Let me look it up. I'm pretty sure it's called the Monster Squad.
I don't know. I always want to ease people
'Cause you
into
think-
things.
Yeah, the
Because
Monster
I think
Squad.
because like Trick or Treat and VHS, they're not light horror, but there's enough variety where it's like, oh, like I kind of want to see like more of this, you know? Because you don't need. Like I feel like it's enough genres. Like another good one that's a little more on the gory side would be like All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you gotta ease them into it. Cause All Hallows Eve, like it's pretty creepy, you know?
Yeah, but that wouldn't be like my first choice.
It just
you know?
depends on people's taste, honestly. Because
Yeah.
the horror genre is so broad that you could just like, there's something for everyone.
Yeah. Like you can
I
argue like
guess, yeah.
Black Mirror is a horror
Yeah,
show.
to a degree.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. But thinking back on it, I'm trying to think of like a solid recommendation. I think Trick or Treat's a fantastic one. That's a really good one.
If you are like, oh, like I kind of want to watch like a good zombie movie, I would 100% recommend Train to Busan. But I feel like everything else after that is just not going to hit the same.
It's because it does everything.
You want to start
all
off
the cliches,
easily,
but-
like maybe a zombie movie's like Return of the Living Dead, because that one's like a
Dawn of the Dead's
comedy,
not bad.
but that one's hardcore though.
Is it?
No, I know,
My taste might
But
be
I'm
a bit
saying
much.
I'm not saying like, well, what would you recommend? Someone's like, oh, like I can't handle horror. Like if somebody's just like, oh, like I've never watched a horror movie, like what should I watch? Like, what do you think will get me into the genre?
So let's narrow down those strong recommendations.
So I think I'm like for sure I'm just gonna stick with the first two that I mentioned
Yeah, I think Trick or Treat.
because I think those are good like introductions. I mean, honestly, I don't even know why nobody here thought of this. Because I think this was kind of all of our introduction to horror would be like Goosebumps. Not like Jack Black, but I mean like the show, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Because
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of,
true.
you know, it's not super crazy hardcore. Like if you're trying to like
I say for a teen, yeah.
if you're trying to ease someone into like, oh, like here's something that's not super crazy, Goosebumps. Like it's super cheesy now by today's standards, but yeah.
No, I can see that. I still stick with the what did I say? Your Next. Your Next is, I think, is like a must watch. I think that it's chaotic but fantastic. And then for something that's more a little more hardcore, I would do The Collection. No, not The Collection. The Collector. Because I used to adore that movie. That came out in 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah.
Because that one was the first movie I watched where I was like, oh, if I were a serial killer, I would have done this. And then literally everything happened. I might be biased because of that, but I recommend the ones I just said.
Yeah.
But that one is more gory and a little bit much for some people to handle. So those would be my recommendations.
I mean, I kind of just stick with Beetlejuice. Yeah, I'll stick with Beetlejuice because it's not really horror, but it has horror elements to it, and it's like super friendly, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like you couldn't like
It's fun. I love Beetlejuice.
if you
I
had
do
like
too.
a kid and they're like, oh, well, can we watch a scary movie? It's Halloween. You're like, oh yeah, like you're not gonna put on like something insane. You're like, oh, I'll put on Beetlejuice. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Well, then with that, I guess we'll wrap things up. Thank you if you listened up to this point. If not, oh well.
Yeah.
Catch you next
screw
time.
you, I guess. Like, if you didn't listen to the end, but if not, I mean, if you did, cool. If not,
Cool.
Cool.
If you made it this far, I would hope you like and subscribe. It would help out the channel because we're just getting going here. Hopefully, we'll have something on the screen for you, or maybe in the future we'll have some video. But
But yeah, we'll see you next time.
yeah, thank you so much.
thank you for listening.
Bye.